Hey everyone, welcome to SFDC Stop, and in this video I'm going to talk about my Google interview experience. So the first process is shortlisting. Shortlisting is basically when your resume is shortlisted by a recruiter. So in my case, I got an email with a subject as "Hi from Google," and it was from a Google recruiter. And it was simply written that if you're interested in applying for a position at Google, reply back to this email and we can further discuss on a call. After shortlisting, I got a call scheduled with the Google recruiter, and it was an initial screening call. So this is the first step of the interview process, I can say. So in initial screening, what you will have a discussion with your recruiter, and your recruiter is going to ask some general questions. For example, why do you want to join Google? If you have any other offers in hand, and why did you apply? And it depends on your background and your experience and a lot of things. Like, so whatever you have mentioned in your resume, maybe your recruiter can code those things and ask questions regarding those, right? It also depends what you are doing currently. For example, if you're currently working for a company and doing a job, or if you are currently looking for a change, or let's say you are already in a process of switching to a different company and things like that. As a result of this call, your recruiter will decide whether to proceed forward with your application or not. And in my case, I got to know that my recruiter is going to proceed with my application. My suggestion for this interview process will be yourself and talk about how you can grow with Google. So after the initial screening, if your recruiter decides that they will proceed forward with your application, then you will have your prep call. So the prep call is basically a discussion with your recruiter. This is the call where your recruiter will tell you that what are the various rounds of interviews and what to expect in those interviews, right? So I think from my side, the suggestions will be that there are some questions that you should ask your recruiter. For example, how many total rounds are there, and what language can you use to code? What will be the length of each interview? Can you suggest any preparation resources? And what level of questions can I expect as per my experience? Because everybody is coming from their own experience and their own background. So I would say that ask your recruiter that what kind of questions and what level of questions you can expect as per your experience and as per your domain knowledge, even if you are not interviewing for Salesforce. After each round, you will have a discussion with your recruiter, and they will tell you the feedback, that whether it was a positive round or whether you did something wrong. The order of interviews may change for you, so it depends on how you want to keep them, or let's say your recruiter may arrange them based on the interviewer's availability. And I'm going to tell you what was the order for my interviews and how I performed, and what are the things that I can give you as a suggestion, or the preparation resources as well. So let's start with the first interview round after this initial screening. The first interview round that I had was the DS and Algo round, and it was a 50-minute interview round where you will be given a problem statement. And first of all, let's talk about how to prepare for this interview. So in case you don't have any background about DS and Algo, then I would say focus more on data structures as compared to algorithms, right? Because I mean, from my personal experience and from my preparation experience as well, I would say if you have knowledge of data structures, you can write a solution. So writing a solution is more important as compared to writing an efficient solution using an efficient algorithm, right? So in this case, I would say if you have no background, focus on data structures and then move on to algorithms. So there are some points that I want to share. First of all, practice as much as you can. Second thing is platform doesn't matter. So you can use CodeChef, HackerRank, HackerEarth, CodeForces, LeetCode. It doesn't matter which platform you are using to practice. What matters is the concepts, that if you have the concepts clear in your mind or not, right? I used HackerRank previously to practice, and this was not when I got a message from Google Recruiter. This was like the previous year when I was just practicing it for myself. So I was really interested in, solving those DS and Algo questions. So I was just solving them for my interest. During the interview preparation, I was using LeetCode, and the only reason behind using LeetCode is that I was also watching some of the videos suggesting that how to prepare for these interviews, and they suggested use LeetCode, so I just went for LeetCode. From my personal experience, I can say that platform doesn't matter. So all matters is how many questions you have solved, how much practice you have done, and your knowledge of data structures and algorithms. If you want to practice, I would say do one problem each day. So start with easy problem and then move to the medium level and then to the hard level, and practice one problem each day, and also learn about the concepts first before moving to solving problems. So let's say you want to learn about various data structures. If I talk about in terms of Salesforce, there is map, set, list, and these three are the main data structures. Apart from this, you can also create your own data structures like binary trees or something else. So learn about these data structures first and then solve problems. And you can also categorize those problems based on the data structures that is going to be used in those problems. So, you have a filter. You can filter the problems by set or by map or by list, and only those data structures will be used in the particular problems. So solve those problems first, which are related to a data structure, and sort them according to the data structures as well. In the interview, you will get an open-ended question. So I would say solve it as you want. There's no right or wrong answer. You can solve it in your own way. And just focus on solving the problem and getting a solution first of all before moving on to, writing an optimized approach. For an example, you can have a look at my Find a Lead Manager binary tree video, and it is a scenario-based problem which I have solved using binary trees in Salesforce. So in case you want to learn that how data structures are useful in case of Salesforce like binary trees, you can have a look at that video and you can understand how we can solve a real life problem using these data structures. Some of the interview tips that I can give is have a problem solving attitude first of all, because you will be given an open-ended problem, you will be given a problem statement and you have to solve that problem yourself, right? So you have to ask a lot of clarifying questions. So this is the second tip, that ask a lot of clarifying questions. For example, let's say you are given a list of numbers to sort, right? So you need to ask that, are there any negative numbers as well, or am I only dealing with positive numbers? And what is the range of those numbers, right? Are those numbers between 1 to 100, or are those numbers between 1 to 1000 or 1 to 10,000? Things like that matters. Let's say if I only have numbers between 1 to 100, then probably I'll use a counting sort. And in case I have numbers between 1 to 1000 or 1 to 10,000, then probably I'll use a merge sort, right? So it depends on the context as well, and you have to ask those clarifying questions to understand the problem fully. So spend like 5 minutes to understand the problem clearly and then move on to the solution. The third interview tip that I can give is focus on solving the problem first and then optimize it. Solution is more important for any interview. So let's say think about in terms of a recruiter. Let's say if you are taking the interview of someone, then there is one candidate who have given you a solution and it is a brute force approach, and there is another candidate who spent all the time in writing the most optimized approach, but there is no solution at the end. So obviously you will prefer that candidate who have given you a solution, right? So first of all, solve a problem and then think about optimizing it. The last interview tip that I can give is think about the corner cases. For example, if you're sorting a list of numbers and you are given a very large number which cannot be accommodated in teacher, then what will you do? How will your program run, and what will be the error that you will throw? Will it throw an exception, or are you handling that exception, or do you have any check in place beforehand? So think about those things. The next interview that I had after the DS and Algo round was a Salesforce specific round. You can also consider this as a domain round. This round is also a 50-minute interview, and you will be given a problem statement. In my case, it was a Salesforce specific problem statement because it was a Salesforce round. And how to prepare for this interview, I would say focus on the job posting that you are applying or you have applied to. Ask your recruiter that what are the necessary requirements for the role that I'm applying to, because from an application engineer's perspective, I'm not talking about specifically Salesforce here. Whatever role that you are going to play after joining the company, then you should have that much of domain knowledge at least, right? So let's say if I'm a Salesforce application engineer, then I should have domain knowledge for Salesforce. So think about the role that you are going to play after you join Google, and ask your recruiter that what are the necessary requirements for my role from a domain perspective. Most probably, I think you already possess those, or you have written those skills in your resume. That's why your resume was shortlisted on the first place, right? I would say from a Salesforce perspective, check the governor limits and learn the syntax, because you are going to code in Salesforce, or let's say you are going to, present your solutions in Salesforce. And for example, let's say you have to build a lightning component, then you must be aware of how you can build a lightning component. You don't have to Google at that point of time, right? It will save your time as well. And I'm not sure if you will be allowed to Google or not. An example for this interview can be sort a list of subjects based on a field value. So this is not an actual interview question. This is a video that I created. And it is a good requirement, I think, for an interview, for a Salesforce interview, that you are given to sort a list of subjects based on a particular field value. So how will you solve this problem? Because this is a Salesforce specific problem. First of all, I want to create a method to sort a list of records, and you can be given any field and a value of that field. So depending upon that field, you have to sort that list. So obviously you need to apply some of the concepts that I used in that video. So you can have a look at a video to get an example. But yeah, this is an example interview question that I can suggest. Some of the tips that I can share for this interview are Use your knowledge and your experience. Follow best practices. Bulkify your code. Think about corner cases. For example, if you have written a solution, then think about what will happen if I have 10,000 records, or let's say if I have 50,000 records, how will my code execute? And let's say if I have a wrong input, then what will happen? Let's say if you are told to write a trigger, then first of all you have to write a trigger because you have to solve that problem, right? But after writing a trigger, you can also think of other ways. You can think if that similar problem can be solved by using a flow as well. So if it can be solved by using a flow, you can suggest a flow, right? Ask clarifying questions. So this is really important for each and every interview. Ask as many clarifying questions as you can because you will be given a problem statement. For example, if you have to sort a list of S objects based on a field value, then it is possible that you are only preparing your solution for text fields, which are going to have values as string, right? It is possible that you are going to consider decimal fields also. You are going to consider Boolean checkboxes also. So there are a lot of corner cases that you need to take care of, or a lot of things that you need to take care of. So once you have a solution ready, once you have a basic solution ready, you need to think about corner cases. Before writing the solution, ask as many clarifying questions as you can. The next interview round that I had was a design round. Design round is used to evaluate your design skills, or I can say your architectural skills. You can be asked to design a system, and that system can or cannot be Salesforce specific. How to prepare for a design round? So there are two YouTube channels that I referred to. One is Gaurav Sen and second is Tech Dummies Narendra L. I'll give you the links to these YouTube channels in the description, and this is not a paid promotion for these two YouTube channels. It is just that I refer to these two YouTube channels to get an idea about how to design a system from a high level, because from a Salesforce perspective, you know that how to design a system, but it is possible that the question is not from a Salesforce background, right? So you must be aware of some of the design concepts like load balancer, RDBMS, Kafka, microservices, monoliths, sharding, or consistent hashing, heartbeat. From a Salesforce perspective, I can say that you can have a look at some of the CTA review board videos that are present on YouTube, and you can also have a look at some mock interviews for CTA. If you are already preparing for a CTA, you must be aware that at the end you have to give your presentation to a review board where you will be given a problem statement and you have to design a whole system or a whole solution on the Salesforce platform, right? So that is very important for the design round from a Salesforce perspective, as per me, because I refer to those videos to understand that how I can design a system on the Salesforce platform. One example problem that I can suggest for design round is think about any real life problem. So let's say you have to design a software to book meeting rooms for a co-working space. So let's say you are designing a software that can be used by various co-working spaces to know that which meeting rooms are available and which meeting rooms are empty, right? So let's say if a user has to book a meeting room, then they can simply look at the various rooms that are available with the seating capacity, and then they can book a room. Think about how you can design such kind of software. For example, which database will you use and what are the different objects that are present, what are the relationship between those objects, what are the fields, and how you will store the data in those objects, things like that. Some of the interview tips that I can give for the design round. Number one is revise your software engineering and database concepts, including SQL. Second thing is design systems that can scale. Third thing is figure out the objects, relationships, screens that are going to be displayed to the user, the data flow diagram, class diagram. That's why I talked about software engineering, because you can be asked to write a data flow diagram. You can be asked to write a class diagram for your solution, right? So all the concepts that you learned while you were studying computer science, think about those and revise those concepts. The next thing is check for failures. Are there any corner cases where your system may fail? For example, how much load can your system handle? How many users can your system handle at one point of time? Will your system crash or not? And the last and most important tip is ask clarifying questions. You have to ask clarifying questions in each and every interview. If you are given a problem statement, ask questions. What is the user base that I'm dealing with? Am I going to have 1,000 users or 10,000 users on my platform? Accordingly, you will decide which library or let's say which database you have to use, right? What is the type of data you are dealing with? It is possible that you can use a RDBMS, or it is also possible that you can use a NoSQL database, or maybe you need to use a combination of both. So ask as many clarifying questions as you can so that you have a good idea of the requirement before proceeding forward. The next round that I had is the integration round. In integration round, you can think about how you can integrate two different systems. And I'm also working on a content related to this because integration is my favorite topic. So hopefully I'll share it as soon as possible. This interview can or cannot be Salesforce specific. So in case you are having a Salesforce background, I would suggest that think about how you can integrate another system with Salesforce first, and then jump onto the next level, that how you will integrate two different systems. How to prepare for an integration round? I would say follow learn by doing approach, like we did in case of LWC to do web tutorial series. So you need to think about how you can integrate another system with Salesforce, or try to implement an integration yourself, because in that way you will have the best knowledge that how you can integrate and what are the challenges that you face while integrating another system with Salesforce. Have a problem statement with you, and you can also have a discussion among your friends or co-workers that how you will integrate that system with Salesforce. For example, if you want to integrate Twitter and Salesforce, then take that as an example, a problem statement, and then prepare a solution for that and discuss it with your co-workers, with your friends, and take their inputs as well. It is important to get different perspectives as well, because you may learn something new if you discuss it with your co-workers or friends, right? Also learn about the concepts. So I have an integration playlist in place in case you want to learn about REST APIs and SOAP APIs and various concepts. For example, GET request, POST request, patch request, and delete request, etc. From a Salesforce perspective, I can say that you must be aware of various options that you have. For example, if I want to integrate Salesforce with some other systems, then I can have name credentials first of all. I can integrate using flows as well. I can also have external objects, right? I can also create my own REST API. I can also use standard REST APIs. I can use platform events. There are a lot of things that you can do for integrating an external system with Salesforce. An example question for an integration round can be, let's say I say that I want to get user data inside Salesforce from an external website. So what you will do, I think the first solution that I can think of is I would use web to lead to get the user data inside Salesforce, because that is Salesforce standard. It is given to me out of box. And in case I don't want to create lead, let's say I want to create context directly or some other things, then maybe I can suggest to prepare some kind of integration between two systems. It depends on the other factors as well. I can also suggest to use Heroku, because Heroku is another platform that can be used to host that external page where the user can enter the data, and that can be saved to a database, and then we can sync that database with Salesforce using Heroku Connect. So you have a lot of options available in case of Salesforce that you can leverage. Think about those options and keep those options in mind. Some of the interview tips that I can share for the integration round are: number one, ask clarifying questions. Number second, have a look at the problem and then discuss the approach first of all you are going to follow to solve that problem. And this point is similar for all the interviews, I would say, that discuss the approach that you are going to follow, because if you are going some wrong way, it is possible that your interviewer may suggest something that you can follow to give the right solution. Third thing is, talk about other approaches as well if required. For example, you specify that I'm going to use platform events. So in that case, it is possible that you will get to know the other system with which you are integrating Salesforce is not capable of consuming platform events. So in that case, you may shift to a REST API. Fourth thing is, focus on governor limits and race conditions as well. Fifth point, I can say, think between synchronous and asynchronous approach, which approach you are going to follow. Sixth thing is, learn about web standards. For example, REST APIs are there, SOAP APIs are there. So you must be aware of these points as well. The next interview round I had was the Googleyness round, and I think this was the best interview round so far for me, because I had a very good conversation with the interviewer and I had a lot of things to share. How to prepare for this round? I would say list some situations that you faced in the past and how you solved them as well, because it is possible that in your interview you are given a situation that you already faced, but at that point of time it is difficult for you to remember how you solved it, right? So if you have listed it down earlier and you have that in your mind, then it is easy to answer, right? And it saves time as well. Second thing, I can say that it's all about you. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about how you approach and how you solve a particular problem that is given to you. An example question can be, let's say you deployed something to production and that failed. Okay. So there can be multiple answers for this. First point, you can say that I'm going to add a hotfix. You can also say that I'm going to roll back that change. You can also say that I'm going to use a workaround. So I'll tell the users that use this workaround and don't use that solution because that has a problem until we solve it. So there can be multiple solutions to this question, right? It depends on your background, it depends on your expertise, it depends on how you have solved those problems before. So that's why I said that it's all about you, okay? Some of the interview tips that I can give for this particular interview: number one, be yourself and be honest. Second thing I can say, you don't have to follow, you can create your own way as well. For example, I am going to solve a problem in one way and you can solve that problem in another way, right? So I would say follow your own way, and in case you are following some other way as well, then make sure that you are able to explain why you are following that approach and that approach appeals you as a person. After the Googleyness round, your whole packet will be sent to hiring committee, and the hiring committee is going to compile your interview results and decide whether it is a yes or a no. And in case it is a yes from the hiring committee, you are going to have a fit call. Fit call is a two-way process. You are also going to decide at which team you want to join. You can have interaction with different teams, and that team manager is also going to decide whether you are a good fit for that team or not. You can have multiple fit calls, so don't worry about it. In my case, I was happy with the first fit call that I had, and I was good with it. So after the fit call, if everything goes well, you will receive your offer letter, and you will receive emails specifying welcome to Google, and that's all. So this was my Google interview experience, and I tried to explain everything that I can so that you are much aware of what to expect in the interview process from a Salesforce perspective as well, and how you can prepare for that interview. If you still have some questions, write those down in the comments and I'll try to answer as much as I can. So all the best for your Google interview, and I'll see you next time. Till then, have a good day. Bye bye.